Street Apologist Live Radio. I am your host, Vocab Malone. Tonight's topic are the esoteric interpretations of the Hebrew Israelites on Street Apologist, where we serve the underserved and look into the overlooked. That's right. Go ahead and hit that like button, and please grab this link and share it, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vocab. Please subscribe to this channel, youtube.com/Vocab Malone. You know, we do these live streams a couple times a week, and we also put out videos, me and my calm man Mike homie, as well as Bri from the Shy. And those are produced videos, which tend to be shorter. The live streams tend to flow around an hour and a half, sometimes longer, rarely shorter. We do that for a few reasons. We can go in-depth on various topics, and we get a good chance to build community. So we have a good community here, got a lot of mods. They will keep you in line. If you are not in line, you'll be timed out and kicked out if you get too crazy. Just, be respectful, basically. Chilling with my dog, my little dog. He's on the floor, but he's got my back at all times, and so does the live chat. Yeah, so recently I was in Philly, and what happened was I did a talk, and I used the Jeopardy theme to have different categories of verses that Hebrew Israelites really misuse, to prop up their doctrine. And so far we've done 2 of those using that same imagery from the PowerPoint, because at the talk in Philly, I didn't get to cover all 4 scriptures for all 4 categories. We've done the first 2 categories so far. We showed how the Hebrew Israelites like to try to first establish their Hebrew identity with certain Bible passages. And then yesterday we showed how then they try to show that salvation is for Israel alone. And on tonight's broadcast, Wednesday, November 6th, the day after my birthday, everybody, around 9:05 here in Arizona, we're going to be doing esoteric interpretation. Esoteric interpretation. Let's see how smart Siri is. I know what the word esoteric is because, of course, I chose the title, but I want to see if Siri knows. Siri, what does esoteric mean?
Esoteric means intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest.
That works. Intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge of interest. The point by saying that is the scriptures we're going to go over tonight, these are scriptures that really are specific to this particular religion and this particular group, especially the One West type of Hebrew Israelites. And so they're esoteric, and also they're obscure in the sense that it's highly unlikely any of these interpretations are correct. That's putting it nicely. I'm trying to be a gentleman about the subject. So they're esoteric, they're obscure, they're unlikely, they're mystical sometimes, they're non-contextual. Now, there's a whole bunch. We're only going to be able to show 4. So before I get into those, I'm going to switch to the screen, and we're going to play our game of Jeopardy. Shout out to the Remnant Generation who says, I'm just here for the freestyle. Are you serious? I tell you what. I assume we're going to get enough for a freestyle. And so if you're really saying you're here just for a freestyle, maybe I'll just start off with a freestyle. Now, I know some of you don't feel that. But since you said that, my man, we're just going to start off with a freestyle. Now, some of you guys aren't going to feel this. I understand that. But our motto here is make apologetics fun again. And as someone else once said, we put the fun back in fundamentalism. If you don't like those jokes, you won't like the show. If you don't like this freestyle, you probably won't like me. That's okay. I still like you. So let's rap now. All right. Got to kick off the show with a freestyle. Brand new beat by my man Mikey in San Diego. Never rapped at this one. Let's see how it goes. I'll try to break down the show for y'all. Yeah. Let me begin this game of Jeopardy on the MIC Freestyle MOND. Yeah, I'm like Indy Jones, but I'm Vocab Malone. Look at my poems as I spit these poems with the palm tree outside the window. Smoke the mic like it was in dough. Hey yo, I'm not a bimbo, try to stay safe. Vocab Malone, it's no shave. November, so you better remember. Yesterday was my birthday. Be a Linda and give me some cash. I'm Vocab Malone, make my neck whiplash, crash, smash and bash. Hello, yes, and then I pass the pill to Shaquille O'Neal like the old school Cube song, ill, so ill. I need a doctor. That's Dr. Funny. Now I ought to sing loud like the opera. I'm an Italian, but I'm not a mobster. Don't eat no lobster, cause that's unclean. My rhymes be like a washing machine. Lots of water spinning round and round. So deep with the lyrics, you drown, so it's ill profound. Vocab Malone with the verbs and the nouns and the adverbs and the adjective. Pep it out now, just let me live and let me give my offering to the church. It's like a wedding, cause I'm married to Christ. I eat up the beat like some beans and rice. Okay, it's nice, Miami Vice, but I'm not a cop, no drugs, no vice. Okay, we rip it, scratch it like lice. Where's the DJ at? He makes it precise. I got the Ginsu knife like a ninja. Vocab Malone, I will injure Korea if you step up in here with these whack rhymes. I'll make you disappear like a genie. I don't mean to be a meanie. Peep it out now, I be like Houdini, disappearing. Now you fearing. Vocab Malone, I be steering this car like a superstar. Peep it out now, who I are. VOCAB, you Larry. Peep it out now, God prepared me. Sent me to school, Phoenix Seminary. Try to keep the truth, not legendary. Airy, hairy, like Esau. That ain't me, I thought you saw. Except for the beard that's coming in. Peep it out now, with my next of kin. And my Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. And all the other cats, I'm down with them. Hey, yo, what's up? A Siciliano. Peep it out now, do what I know. I know these verses I shared with you. So peep it out now to the essay crew. We coming through like pow 1-2. I'm like that white cat on the memes, dude. Saying ill stuff in the ghetto language. Peep it out now, I will manage to damage the beat like a punching bag. Yes, y'all, the pants zigzag, so I got a belt. Now it felt, the rhyme so hot, you know that it melts. This is the end of the track. Hey, yo, don't leave, please come back. Well, he said he wanted a freestyle. You know, the thing is when I freestyle, okay, it's like I joke around a lot. You guys must understand that. When you freestyle, you just say some funny stuff, right? Hey, what's up, Irene? You're also here just for the freestyle? Wow. All right, thanks. Right on, man. The Hebrew Israelites say be haping. Yeah, Jay, that's one of my crutches. I say peep it out now. You caught that. Breakfast Gun says make a rhyme with orange. Well, there's no true rhymes, but you could do Warren, Storin, it depends how you stretch it. I'm not the wordsmith on all that, but you can orange born, kind of play around with it. Oh, Chief Ephraim's in the house. Well, hello, good day to you, sir. Let me get right to the show then, because I know you're not going to be feeling this with the freestyle stuff. So let me go ahead and get right into these verses, because I'd love to have you be part of this. So without any further ado, welcome to Hebrew Israelite Jeopardy. Welcome. I've already defined Hebrew Israelism and Hebrew Israelite the last couple of days, so we'll just get right into this. And let's do the theme song together, everyone. It goes a little something like, na, na, na. I'm not gonna do it. I already did it. I've embarrassed myself enough. I pretty much have no shame. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much no shame in my game. Not too proud to beg and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just go on right to today's category, and we're gonna see how we're gonna interpret these verses like a Hebrew Israelite would, which is according to an esoteric interpretation. There today is the category in our game of Hebrew Israelite Jeopardy. We've got Genesis 25:25 for 100. We've got Obadiah 1:3-4, although we might look at a couple other passages for 200. We got Romans 9:13 for 300 and Revelation 13:9 and 10 for 400. Doo-doo. Those are our categories. That's what's going on. Hey, what's up, everybody? Shout out to everybody in the live chat. I see some good people. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Whoa, that's weird. I didn't even know I could do that. First up is Genesis 25:24 and 25. Although really we're going to focus mainly on verse 25, but let's take a look at it while you're turning there in your Bible. I'm going to grab my Bible right now. Bringing it up. Got the Bible here. All right. My mom is calling. Should I pick up? Let's pick up. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of a live stream, so you're pretty much live on the air with me right now on speakerphone.
Well, hi. How is everybody? Everybody on the radio.
Right now, there's about 40 people tuning in, so I don't know what you're doing up so late. It's like 11:15 there, but if you're up for an hour and a half, I can call you when it's all over if you'd like.
Well, that's fine. What's the topic?
Esoteric interpretation. These are verses that sometimes religious groups interpret in obscure, impossible ways, and we're going to look at some of those. Ham Sunshine says, "Hi, Mom, back at you," and so does D. New. She's Jamaican from Canada. She says, "Hi, Mom Malone." And Nate from the northwest area of the United States says, "Hi, Mrs. Malone." So apparently you have all kinds of different names.
Hey, I like it.
Irene says, Irene. Oh, and Irene Rodriguez also says hi, and then also Jay, and then Timothy. Yeah, so. And Alex, shalom. Okay, well, I'll try to call you back if you're still awake, Mom.
Awesome. Maybe I'll try to listen in. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. And Bento says hi, and so does Mystic. All right. Well, is this a totally professional show? I'm no William Lane Craig, ladies and gentlemen. If I was, I wouldn't be drinking whatever this is live on the air. Mom sounds so youthful. G loves Jesus. All right, well, she's gone now, guys, so, you know. Obviously, my mom doesn't watch anything I do, as you could tell, right? Okay. Oh, yeah, Corinth, they're doing a new feature. I forgot to tell you guys in the super chat where you can do these super stickers now. I haven't seen anybody use them yet. It'd be very interesting to see somebody use them. So, if someone uses them, let me know. I'd love to see how they work, these new super stickers that YouTube's rolled out. I don't know much about them yet. I haven't seen anyone use them, but it'll be dope to see them finally. Oh, someone just downvoted us. Are you downvoting my mom? Next thing you know, Hebrew Israelite's going to come on here talking about they're going to chop my mom's head off. By the way, I have got that before, that particular line. Okay, so back to regular scheduled program. Genesis 25:24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. So, mama's pregnant. There's two babies up in there. It's getting a little crowded. Here's what happens. Genesis 25:25. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So Esau here, of course, is the older brother. And we got Esau. And we have a somewhat of a description of him. And so let's find out what that means. Now, remember, this is Hebrew Israelite Jeopardy on our first category here. So we're not only going to find out what this really means, we have to find out what the Hebrew Israelite interpretation, of course, which is really a misinterpretation, is, okay? That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to teach you what they do with this. Here they say, at the time Esau was born, everybody on the earth was black or brown. Which everybody on the earth being brown might have some credence to it at this point. But then again, we're in Genesis 25. In Genesis, the Tower of Babel had already happened, so we don't know exactly what has happened in those generations. We don't really know. But here's what they say. Everybody's black or brown at this time. So the reason why a physical description is given of the baby Esau is because he did not look like anyone around him at the time. He is the way you would describe a white baby. This is what they would say. Because if you notice, they'll say, he came out red. Now, there's different interpretations with how they do this. Red all over like a hairy garment. Some will say it's like a hairy garment that you dyed red, and that's the color of red he was. Others will say this is describing the fact that he's red and hairy. You see, there's different things with that. The key there, though, is the red. And what Hebrew Israelites will say, look, if you look, all right, the situation is that, hold on, this is pretty funny. About my father's business, about my father's work always, says, say what you may, but Sakari has 800 in their chat. Christianity is finished. All praises to the Most High. Yo, do you really think the future of Christianity and Hebrew Israelism will be determined by how many people are in the live chat? Also, I'm just one guy. I don't run an organization like Sakari. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole organization. It's just such a funny thing to say. But thank you for joining us, of course, about my father's work always. Appreciate your comments. All right, so what they'll say there is that the way you would describe a white person is actually by calling them red because their skin shows underneath, right? And if you slap them, they turn red. If they're out in the sun too long, they turn red. They're like pink looking, you know what I mean? When they're born, all that kind of stuff, right? And so, since nobody else looked like that, supposedly, okay, Esau did. And so this is evidence that he is different than everyone else, a white baby, and of course grows up to be a white man. And on a lot of Hebrew Israelite reckonings, grows up to be the father of the white race. And so they always ask these questions. Where did white people come from, right? Okay. Now, interestingly enough, from what I've seen, the British Israelites use this same verse to prove that the Israelites are white people. Because what they do is say, similar, except for some changes, obviously, to what the Hebrew Israelites say, as far as, this got to be a white baby, right? And then they say, well, if he's a white baby and he's got a twin brother, his twin's not going to be different than him, and neither is the father. So this description of Esau clearly shows you that the Israelite original stock is that of white people. Now, I want everyone to understand, I do not hold to either of these arguments. But here's my point. The British Israelites, or the Anglo-Israelites, which a lot of their theology has been co-opted by the Christian identity and folks like that. You start to lose track of these white nationalist, white supremacist organizations and their bad theology, right? But they use a similar argument, and they were first. They were earlier than the One West Hebrew Israelites, all right? So we've seen this interpretation of the Hebrew Israelite version go back sometime in the early 20th century. The Commandment Keepers came about in 1919, and there's some old accounts of the teaching that happened there from the pamphlets and sermons, and all the way back to the Commandment Keepers. This is one of their breakdowns, meaning some are innovations from the 1969 One West School. This particular breakdown about Jacob being a black man and Esau being a white man goes all the way back to the Commandment Keepers. So this bad breakdown was with them, it looks like, in the beginning. And a quote that I have in my book is that the teacher of the school, his name's not important right now, but the rabbi, said, Jacob's skin was smooth, that we see later on, invariably as the black man's is. So, Esau, different. So, of course, everyone must understand, Esau, therefore, is Semitic, meaning white people are actually Semites. Do you understand that? On this misreckoning, white people are Semitic Semites. They're not Japhetic. Okay? White people are Semitic Semites because of who they come from. All right? Now, you do have a situation where this would require a white twin, one twin being white, one being black. Now, Hebrew Israelites love to point out pictures to show that's not impossible. That's fine enough. Of course, is that what this really means? Because that assumes some certain things about the parents. But regardless about that, when we do have a comment about the way these twins looked, here's what's very interesting. Josephus says they were identical twins except for the hairiness aspect. I have that quote somewhere in the book too. Josephus says that they were the same except for this, basically, right? So that's interesting. Chief Ephraim, I appreciate your position, you know what I'm saying? And I know who you are to an extent, you know what I mean? And all that. But honestly, I expect greater input from you. Now, you can do whatever you want, obviously. But I'm just saying, all you're going to do is talk like the rest of the peons and the flunkies. Vocab just admitted you have an obsession with Hebrews, especially One West. That's really, you're not even interacting with anything being said. You're not defending anything. You're not offering anything of substance. You sound just like everybody else. I don't know. I thought you were special or different in some way. Like that, you're just going to do that? Like, let's say I have an obsession with Hebrew Israelites in One West. Let's just say I do. What does that have to do with the truth of what I'm saying or not? It literally has nothing to do with it, Chief Ephraim. So, Chief Ephraim, you don't seem to understand, regardless of whether I'm obsessed or not, it's irrelevant to the facts. So, who cares? Who cares, right? Shout out to Joe Roman for the super chat, my man. Great question. How can you say Christianity is finished? Jesus already proclaimed it is finished. Good one. We're saved by his life on the cross. Christians will never be removed from the Antichrist. Good comment, my man. So, you're just kind of playing a game. But, hey, shout out to you. Do whatever you want, right? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I want to bring some things about this. There's a number of things that are interesting about this. One is admoni, which means reddish, sometimes translated ruddy, seems to be partially a wordplay on Esau's descendants, the Edomites. Admoni, Edom. Seems to be. So this reddish, ruddy, because sometimes you see translated as ruddy as well, is an interesting word. And I'm gonna explain why in a second. So hold on to that thought about red or ruddy, which the underlining Hebrew word we're looking at here is admoni. So where it says came out red, see right here, admoni. So keep that in mind, okay? First thing. Second thing, in relationship to the description of Esau, hairy is in Hebrew Seir, which is also interesting. It seems to be a wordplay on where the Edomites would eventually live by Mount Seir. That's where Esau ends up living. And you can see that in Genesis 32:3 and in Genesis 36:8. Hey, shout out again to Joe Roman for the super chat. Much love to you. I see you, man. I appreciate it. All right. That's a great question, Miss Example Night. I'm going to put that on the screen. You guys are distracting me a little bit, but it's such a fantastic question to ask. See, this is how you do it. Everyone look at Mystic Example Night's comment. This is how you do it. If someone comes, proclaiming what they proclaim or whatever, you don't need to make fun of them. We don't need to act the way they act. You get contextual. I apologize. The comments on the screen, I apologize that it's small. Okay, I see it's very small there. But let me just tell you what it says. It says, what Chief Ephraim, what Bible passage do you derive the title of chief from? That's an excellent question. So you're taking something in their name and asking for a biblical justification for it. So it's relevant to the discussion because it's a guy's name. So anyways, good question. I don't think you're going to get an answer, really. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so this Harry is also wordplay on Mount Seir. Or maybe even the term in Hebrew, Esau itself. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting, okay? In two different things. And Hebrew Israelites, you know this is coming because you've never dealt with it, so it's going to keep on coming up as long as we live. All right? Here we are in Logos, bringing it up. By the way, if you use the code, you will get a discount on Logos, so I encourage you to do that. Okay, I'm going to go to the passage here, and I want to show you in Hebrew where it is. This is very important, okay? This is the way the ESV translates it. The first came out read, all his body like a hairy cloak, okay? And so they called his name Esau. See this word right here, red? I'm going to show you it down here. Remember I said it was admoni? See that right there? Okay, so let's keep that. Keep that in mind, okay? And let's go now. Remember that word. Okay, here we go. Pay attention, everybody. What's about to happen? Let's look at this description of David. This is the description of David. I want to read this to you. This is a bombshell for this horrible interpretation. They've never dealt with it properly. So they're going to say it's old because they can't deal with it, okay? Look at this, everybody. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and had beautiful eyes, was handsome. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. By the way, this whole passage is anti-Hebrew Israelite. Let me show you one other thing that's anti-Hebrew Israelite. Look at this. Do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. Hebrew Israelites, man, they be looking on the outward appearance for real. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this whole discussion's about that, but the Lord does not. So they see differently, you know? And by the way, the choice of David over all of his brothers is actually similar to this Jacob-Esau story. Similar to Cain and Abel. The list goes on. Similar to Joseph. The Lord chooses his own order. He rejects who he wants, and he selects who he wants. It's just how it is. Yahweh's in charge, and I just think, I'm just glad he's gracious enough to choose any of us. That's what I think is a biblical understanding of that. But here's what's important about this is a description of David, who the Hebrew Israelites would see as a black Israelite like they would see themselves, right? Because he's a tribe of Judah. Here the word is translated ruddy. Look at the underlying word, admoni. It is literally the same exact word used to describe who? Esau, right there on your screen. So if we're going to say this is describing a white person, then guess what? David was white. And guess what? Going back to the Anglo or the British Israelites, guess what they do? They take this verse about David looking this way, and they say that David was a white man. They use the same bad argumentation because of the underlying Hebrew word, admoni, and then they say, well, David was a white man, obviously. To be consistent, that's a kind of nonsense argument you'd have to make. So everyone, remember 1 Samuel 16:12. If a Hebrew Israelite wants to go to Genesis 25:25, you want to go to 1 Samuel 16:12. But if you can't remember 1 16:12, you know what you could do? You could go to 1 Samuel 17:42. And look what it says here. And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. The Anglo-Israelites would say, for he was but a youth, white and handsome in appearance. That's basically the way they would interpret it. But it's the same underlying word, which is basically read in Hebrew, admoni, that Esau is described as. Again, this is a dagger to the heart of this poor interpretation. There's no way around it. Now, they try to offer, let's see, are you going to, okay. Chief Ephraim's given a defense of his name. I appreciate that. He's going to Deuteronomy 1:15, where it says the chief of your tribes. I don't even think that's really a title, but okay. And you also know that it's not anything to do with the New Testament titles. Know what I mean? But whatever, it's all good. I'm glad he answered nonetheless. That's cool. Thank you for the super chat, Nate. Now let's see though, Chief Ephraim. You see that we can be legit with you. What's your defense here for why David is called Admoni? What's your defense there? What would be your defense? What is your defense there? Let me know if you got something. Okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of already done, you know what I mean? But I got something else for the Hebrew Israelites. And this is really going to just kind of like just make it all done to show that this is a no good interpretation. My brother faithful to God brought this out, and another brother brought it out to him. This is just smackdown. Okay, you guys ready? If you go to Genesis 27, you have a situation where Jacob, in essence, he's a usurper, steals the blessing from Esau that Isaac gives, okay? Isaac's eyes are weak, you see there in verse 1. I can't really see that well. So Esau goes out to get the game. Rebecca knows what's going on. She favors Isaac, so she says, let me help you out here. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Verse 9, go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats. Keep that in mind, so that I may prepare from the delicious food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies. But Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Notice, and this is probably why Josephus said it, Jacob doesn't really bring up any key physical differences between his brother and him. He doesn't say, like, our lips, our nose, our voice. He just talks about the hairy and the smooth. Perhaps my father will feel me. So that's what he's worried about. If he touches him when he gives him the blessing, which is a common thing. Keep that in mind. This is going to be very important for where I'm going to go. And this is going to be a smackdown. When you guys see this, you're going to be like, whoa. And I shall seem to be mocking him and bringing a curse upon myself, not a blessing. His mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice. Go and bring them to me. So he went and took them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared delicious food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, so she dressed him like Esau. By the way, it seems they would be somewhat of a similar size. We picture Esau as all giant and big. Maybe he was, but they can at least wear the same clothes without seeming like, he's like looking like, who's that seven dwarf whose clothes are all baggy? Isn't there a seven dwarf whose clothes are all baggy? Is it Sleepy? He's not looking like Sleepy here. I don't think. It doesn't seem like it, because that's not what they're worried about, noticing the difference. Where's your hand? Oh, it's up in there. Which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, your younger son. And the skins of the young goat she put on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. This is massive. Number one, it's goat hair, which is not kinky, but flat and straight. Just saying, if you want to play this game, we can play that game. Number 2, notice there's only 2 places that they put the hair on, because you guys want one white and one black. We're going to destroy that really bad right now. Hair here, hair here. Guess what? When Isaac goes to fill Jacob's head, they're not worried about Isaac feeling the difference in the texture of the hair on the head. Oh, it's over. It is absolutely over. For your horrible misinterpretation to work here, you would have to have a situation where you would have their hair be a different texture, and Jacob would be worried or concerned. Rebecca would be worried and concerned when he touches, because he is going to touch right here, the back of the neck. When he touches, he feels the hair, sees it's different, sees it's not the same. One's like Owen Wilson, the other one's like Bobby Brown. But nope. And the skins of the young goat she put on his hands on the smooth part of his neck. She put the delicious food in the bread, which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. All right. Isaac said to Jacob, verse 21, please come near that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you're really my son Esau or not. So he doesn't say your voice sounds way different, because they always make a big deal about the voice of many waters representing the baritone voice supposedly of the Israelite phenotype versus a stereotype of someone with a thin voice, a high-pitched voice. It's not the voice, so he can still hear. His eyes are dim, right? He's just like, how'd you get back so quick? He's like, let me see if you're really him. He felt him and said, oh, I'm sorry. I messed up on that part. There is a difference there. Man, I knew. They're going to get on that. Anyways, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. So there's a difference in the voice. Oh, man, what was I saying? I was getting carried away. Get to why I'm reading the text, okay? I'm not perfect. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hair like his brother Esau's hands. Okay, you guys see it? All right. I mean, it's pretty much done. All right, you see, it's pretty much done. Okay, now we've already dealt with that one. Now let's go to the next one. So returning to our Jeopardy game. And we bring it up, and let's look at the next one. Esoteric interpretation for 200, Obadiah 1-4. Let's read Obadiah 1-4, our next verse that Hebrew Israelites have some kind of crazy esoteric interpretation for. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence I will bring thee down, saith the Lord. Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at this. All right. Let's take a look at this here. Cornish Chandler says, I'm liking this game. Good, man. Me too. All right. So, context, everybody. Let's do some context. All right. Esau had some kids. His descendants ended up being called the Edomites. Okay? Now, the Edomites moved into what's called the Transjordan area. All right? Yeah, I messed up on that. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know where I was going with that. Transjordan area. South Israel. Okay? So here we are. And they're living there, these Edomites, who were enemies of the Israelites. This is all true enough. Because of various infractions against the Israelites throughout their existence, the prophets spoke often against Edom. Not the only country they made oracles against, but certainly one of the main targets. All right. Obadiah here, one of the minor prophets, very short book, has an oracle against Edom. We're in verses 3 and 4. He's speaking directly to them. See what he says. All right. I see some of you guys already know. How'd you guys all know this? Some of you guys are paying attention. Hashar from AOC thinks this reference is to the moon landing. Yes, they do. So, looks like we got people who knows what's going on in here. Yeah, right on. All right. So let's take a look at this here. All right. The way the One Westers interpret this is something like this. This verse is talking about the so-called white man. First of all, we know it's the white man because they're descendants of Esau. We've already established with the precept from Genesis 20:25 that Esau is a white man, his descendants are the white people. So here they are, and Yahweh speaking against the proud white man. How do we know the white man's proud? Look, it says right here, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. The white man is so prideful, he thinks he can beat God. And that's the way he's going to be in the end of the age because that's his character. That's how we don't even need the physical descriptions to strictly understand this verse. We can just see by the characteristics of the proud white man. The white man's always got that smirk and that smug because he's so arrogant. in his heart. In fact, we call it caucasity. That's the arrogance of the white man. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. He's so drinking his own Kool-Aid, believing his own press. He thinks he can beat God. Now look what God says about the so-called white man, the Edomites. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, who saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Now, we understand that at a meeting back then, but now we see that it has a meaning right now. In our modern era, who's the architects of these cities, and who's trying to always get all high, right? In the skyscrapers that he erects and in the tall buildings, it's the so-called white man living way up there, looking down on everybody so he can build better. This is talking about the white man loving to live in those high apartment buildings and skyscrapers, right? That's what this is. And anybody knows that when they see this. And the white man is proud. He's saying, who's going to take me down? Can't nobody touch me. And you know what? The white man is right when it comes to this natural. He's got these crazy weapons because he was gifted the power of the sword. We can't touch him right now. We can't do nothing. But see, that don't mean God can't touch him. And God is going to touch that proud so-called white man. And so the answer, Esau, when you say, who shall bring me down to the ground? It's not going to be us. It's going to be the Most High. The very words of this book that we proclaim to you right now. And look what it says here about you. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. Now let's talk about that eagle. The eagle is the symbol of Rome. Everybody knows that. It was the symbol of Nazi Germany. Guess what? It's also the symbol of who? The United States of America. The eagle. It's on the coinage. It's on the money. You got that eagle, the symbol of the United States of America. And though thou set thy nest among the stars. So look, first of all, we know it's talking about the United States of America, who's in charge of things right now, the most powerful country so-called in the world, right? And who runs America? The white man from his skyscrapers and tall buildings like Trump Tower. So they exalt themselves, right, thinking nobody can bring them down. It shows us talking about the United States of America. And though thou set thy nest among the stars. Now, what's that? The white man is so arrogant, he tries to go up into space even, right? And so here he is, got a space station out there. Got a space station. And that relates also to the eagle. Remember what the United States said when they landed on the moon landing? If they really did, the eagle has landed. That's a symbol of the white man's pride, like he's going to conquer everything. And thou set thy nest among the stars. The white man's so prideful, when he got to that moon, it's a good thing there was no natives there, because if there were, he probably enslaved them, raped them, killed them, just like he did with Columbus. That's what's going on with him. But fortunately, there's no one there to do that too. Thou, though, exalt thyself as the eagle. That's who he is. That's his symbol. And though thou set thy nest among the stars. That's that International Space Station. Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Now, there's some other verses that they also use here. But I think you get the idea, okay? Now, let's talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. Vincent Parker. Excellent question. I literally took this on yesterday. So Vincent Parker's asking a question that was in yesterday's show. So he spent a significant amount of time on Psalm 147, 19 to 20. All right. All right. Let's get the actual background to the book of Obadiah and the Edomites, okay? We do know pride is a serious sin. Isaiah 2, 11 through 17, Isaiah 16, 6 through 14, Ezekiel 28, 2 through 10, Ezekiel 28, 12 through 19, Amos 6 and 8, Malachi 3, 19, and 4, 1. Pride comes before the fall. And certainly there was a smugness to the ancient Edomite kingdom, and now we're going to find out why. Let's talk a little about their territory. So this land of Edom, the kingdom of Edom, their territory was about 100 miles long. And it goes from the southern tip of the Dead Sea, there in Israel, to the Gulf of Agaba. That's how long it goes, which leads into the Red Sea. This strip of land 100 miles long had mountainous peaks which would rise up to 3,500 feet. All right. Now, it's certainly true that some of Edom's territory was level. By the way, their territory was formerly called the land of Seir. But the major settlements, especially, such as the later Nabatean capital, Petra, which is a fortress city, that was built on elevated rock outcrops with really steep slopes. So Edom basically thinks that the inaccessible rocky terrain in this mountainous region equals invulnerability. They can't be touched like hammer. Shout out to you, Joe Roman, for the super chat. I'm looking for your new avatar, by the way. Let us know when you got it. Hit save or something. Okay. Their location of the capital, Sela, S-E-L-A, was on what's now called the El Ba'ara Plateau, and that made it unapproachable from all angles, except the southeast slope, which is highly well defended. Yes, I looked this up. This is not from a Wikipedia article. I don't know what Wikipedia has about it. I looked into this, all right? Vincent Parker, no doubt. Now, you may not agree with my breakdown or understanding or interpretation. I'm not trying to ignore your question, Vincent Parker, but we really did spend time on that. So it's not like I expected you to have to watch it, but I was just letting you know that I did deal with it extensively because it's a key verse. But thank you for your question about Psalm 147 there. Hey, Moises, my man from Anaheim in the chat. Shout out to my Manasseh tribe, Cubano, Vocab. Yo, I got to get back out to L.A., man. Moises, I want to see you. I want to see the family again. I want to kick it with you guys. Moises was there. He had my back. He was in the cut. I don't think they knew he was there. When I first met Sakari, him and his family were there, live and in person, chill on the side when I first met Sakari because there was a grip of them, but he had my back, and that's my man. My man Moises makes the bomb Cuban coffee. That stuff is like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's good. And this dude can cook, man. He be hooking up everything. Do you still have that epic mustache? I haven't seen a recent picture. And it's been like a year or two since I've seen you, man. I don't know. Anyways, man. Sakari uncovered in the live chat. Yes, people have left Hebrew Israelism. Yes, they certainly have. All right, so check this out. Right now, we're just in the Bible. So we're not, you know what I'm saying, like getting too deep into their interpretation now. We're looking here at the actual background of the Bible. Shout out to your mustache, then, Moises, my man. What's up, Scott Minetti? Look like you a paisan. What's so good with you? All right, so check this out. I think he does use Cafe Bustelo. All right, so anyways. Now, there's other main cities here, Timan and Basra. In fact, it was a phrase in the ancient Near East to say the wisdom of Timan and the wise men of Timan were famous because the territory of Edom, though it was small, was a key area for the Syrian and Assyrian trade. So especially Petra was like a great market for that. So they got a lot of wisdom, you know what I mean? And so they were known for that. Now, there was also caves there, and in fact, the previous dwellers before Edom moved in were called the Horites, Genesis 14:6, Deuteronomy 2:12, and 22. And they were like actually just straight up cave dwellers. And so that's some of the background. So what's going on is you have Edom, even though it's a smaller kingdom with a smaller territory, basically feeling indestructible because it's very difficult to defeat them. And there's some merit or truth to their thinking there. But the book of Obadiah says, yo, you guys are going to get taken out. You know what I mean? And there's various reasons why, but this is one of the oracles. And they're like, who's going to bring me down? Yahweh's like, I'll bring you down. Okay? And so let's look a little bit about this. And then I'm going to go back to a question about the eagle. So this is the real background to the passage. It doesn't have anything to do ever with skyscrapers. It has to do actually with where they live. The reason why I just gave all that information about the topography is because it says that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high. That's why they were arrogant. You know, skyscrapers aren't even easily to defend militarily. You know what I'm saying? Like, who can bring them down? 9/11, hijackers can bring them down. You know, it's pretty easy to take a skyscraper down. They're not meant for defense. They're not defense towers. Unless you're talking about Tony Stark's tower or maybe the Avengers tower or something like that, right? Anyways, Tony Stark's got blown up, I think, anyway. All right, so check this out. What's up, Miss Piggy? How you doing? What's up, Basic? How you doing? So, what's up, Gerard Perry? What's up? All right. So here we are. Let me tell you a little bit about. There is numerous prophecies in Obadiah that the kingdom of Edom is going to get vanquished, and the Edomites are going to be basically wiped out as a distinct people group. Now, it's interesting that Edom would be so arrogant because King Amaziah showed that Edom was vulnerable in 775 BC. If you read 2 Kings 14:7, you see that. And it appears most likely that because of this, Edom was actually under Judah's control all the way until the Egyptian attack of 605, or maybe the Babylonian invasion of 598. Not really sure when that grip loosened, but that's probably around that time. So a substantial amount of time. So there's a level of subjugation there, right there. But especially when you start talking about the Chaldean period, right? And you can see this in Jeremiah 49, Ezekiel 35. Now, what happens next? Well, there's a period in between the Testaments, sometimes called the Maccabean period, or during when the Apocrypha is written, right? And you have something called the Maccabean dynasty. And there's a man named John Hyrcanus. He reduced Edom, totally reduced Edom. So it's like the beginning of the end for Edom. Now, the time you get to the Romans, by 70 AD, the Romans they destroyed this area, and Edom lost its national existence by this time. And that's why you don't really see them mentioned much after 70 AD, because the Romans destroyed it. And if you read Obadiah 10 through 14, it's only one chapter or whatever, it shows, I think you can see two stages of judgment, and there's other commentators who have noticed this. Two periods of judgment, one of basically a shameful captivity, another of extinction. So when Hebrew Israelites says, who were the Edomites today, or where are they today? They were wiped out. Between Israelites themselves, such as John Hyrcanus, and the Romans, and even invaders before that, such as, talk about the Chaldean period, between all that, it's a slow, gradual extinction. Like most other ancient people groups, they lost their distinct ethnic identity. That doesn't mean that their genes aren't in the gene pool of humanity per se, right? But as a distinct entity, they're gone. Just like the Hittites, just like the Amalekites. You can go on and on. The Horites, who are the Horites today, right? These people groups have lost their identity as a distinct people group. People groups that are still around that have maintained some kind of continuity of identity, such as the Egyptians, of course, the Israelites themselves, the Assyrians. They're not even an identical mix, and a lot of times they're in different geographic locations, such as the Assyrians, as what they first were because of invasions and people movements and all that. Other people were just gone. Not just a diluted gene pool, but as far as the distinct people group, they're gone. Edom is gone. Now, the whole point of saying this is, when you look through this, there's nothing that would tell you in this text that a nest among the stars means a space station. This is simply language of hyperbole to say, oh yeah, Edom, even if you, being symbolized by a bird of prey, put your nest all the way up in the stars, if that's how high you were, I'm still going to bring you down. You see what I'm saying? It's saying, I'm not even worried about what you have going on right now. You could have your dwelling and your fortress all the way up in the stars, and you're still going to be brought down to the earth. And in fact, you can even understand it almost as brought down to the underworld if you look at the thematic elements to this verse, because I've been looking at this verse today with an extra close eye. That's what's going on. This is simple. This is Yahweh showing he brings kingdom down, he punishes nations. Here you have Edom as the example. They're prideful of heart, just like all these kingdoms, and it's not gonna save them. They're gone. Sicaria uncovered. Yes, most likely, especially the Jordanians, will be the closest we would have to modern-day Edomites. So that's roughly the same area, but the thing is, you got to remember, they took a lot of those Edomites out of the region during the times they were conquered, and Jews came in there, forcibly converted them, lived among them, mixed in there. You also have situations where key Arab groups, such as the Nabateans, came in there and slowly kind of took over by just greater populations as well. It looks like through movements of history. This is my understanding of it. My point is they wouldn't be identical in any way. But so some of their descendants would be perhaps people numbered among the Jordanians. Now, this is just the real history of it. We don't have to make stuff up. We don't have to come up with crazy interpretations. You know what I mean? But I want to show you something real quick here. This is the last thing we're going to show out of this, okay? But I do want to show you this, everybody, about this passage, okay? I don't know if this has been discussed, but it's very interesting and may create some major problems for their interpretation, which already has some major problems. So we go to the book of Obadiah. Okay. All right. Let's see. It's right here. This word. Though you soar aloft like an eagle. Let's look down here in the bottom what it says. It's very interesting. It says eagle, uncertain. Now, why does it say that? Nesser, eagle, uncertain. Huh. That's interesting. Let's see what Strong says. Huh. Who would have thought? Nesher doesn't always mean eagle. It just means a large bird of prey. It can also be translated as a vulture, such as the griffin vulture. Let's take a look at this. I wonder if this is already known. Let's take a look at this. ASV adds the margin, great vulture in Leviticus 11:13, and vulture in Proverbs 30:17, and in Micah 1:16, we've got vulture again. Huh. Well, look at this. This is the theological word book of the Old Testament, by the way, this lexical source. Actually, not only did the Semitic languages tend to lump the large soaring birds into one family, but the Encyclopedia Britannica defines eagle as inclusive of several day-flying birds of prey comprising, along with hawks, harriers, and old world vultures, the family, this is the Latin name, Asiptridae. Huh. What's my point by that? And actually, here's some further articles. Driver has a whole article, Birds in the Old Testament, in the Palestinian Exploration Quarterly. And here's another one, same journal, called Once Again, Birds in the Bible. They study everything, and there's actually a whole book called All the Birds of the Bible. They encourage you to look at the entry, actually, in the New Bible Dictionary as well. What's my point by saying all that? A lot of modern commentators don't see that this should be translated as eagle here in the Obadiah passage. They believe that it should more likely, why is it doing that? What in the world? Be translated as, guess what? Yeah, that's right. Believe it or not, as vulture. I need to get rid of some of my commentaries I've got up here, because I can't look at my main text here on Logos. All right. Now, let me show you further evidence for this to understand this, okay? So here's the word, Nesser. Now, let's go here. Ready? Okay, look at this. Jeremiah 49:16. Look what it says here. The horror you inspire has deceived you in the pride of your heart, you who live in the clefts of the rock. So this, you see this similar language? Who hold the height of the hill. Though you make your nest as high as the eagles, I will bring you down from there, declares the Lord. So very similar passage here in Jeremiah, right? And same word, Nesser. And you have the same problem with the uncertainty, that this could be vulture, because this word is just a generic expression for a large bird of prey. But it's known that one of the birds that do this could be the vulture, meaning it's not even certain it should be translated as eagle. And really, if they're up there, way high up, all you're seeing is a large bird of prey anyway, right? I'm just showing you examples of the same word, but you see how it could be a different bird translated. Is it at your command? The eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high. That's Book of Job there. And you even see an example here. Oh, it's interesting. They do it different in the ESV. But you have another thing there. Now, see that one. See, this is interesting because make yourself bald as the eagle. It could say that, or it could be bald as the vulture. See, that's part of the problem is it works. That would work both ways. You see that? I just want to bring that up. I think it's an important point because they make a big deal out of the eagle. But when you look into it, it's not some certain thing like that as far as the way to translate that. All right? I think that's very important. I think it's very important. Okay, so going over to the game again, Jeopardy. Da na 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 dun na 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 na. I'll take esoteric interpretation for 300, please, Alex. Romans 9:13. Sounds like the Wayne's World thing, right? Romans 9:13, classic. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Now, notice how there's a theme here. What I'm showing here is the two we've already done. No one in the history of Bible interpreters has ever interpreted these passages the way one Westers interpret them. Esau being the white man, and that's Genesis 25:25. Then we're looking at, Obadiah, and we got over here with Obadiah, the space station and moon landings being talked about and skyscrapers. No one's ever thought that because it's not evident or clear from the text. These are things that the One West teachers made up to try to fit in with this thesis of Esau being descendants of Europeans. But they have to keep it that way because then you have justification for hate. That's right, just like people like to try to make God co-sign their hate. I'll just say it that way. People like to try to do that. And so that's what you have going on here. Because they basically say Esau equals the white man, so God hates him too. So why can't I? That is written. Romans 9:13, Paul here is quoting, of course, the text from Malachi. Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Now, this text is highly debated in a lot of ways because it deals with the Calvinism, Arminian debate. You know what I'm saying? Deals with that. And it also deals with, there's a couple of things. That's the main thing it deals with, though. Now, what I want to do here is talk a little about what this actually means. Understand, though, based upon the Edomites and Obadiah we looked at in the Genesis 25:25, this basically, one West interpretation is this. Basically like this. Ready? God is saying, Jacob, the black Israelite, I loved, and Esau, the white or red Edomite, I hated. That's it. So there's the ethnic aspect being added in, even though they're twins, right? No. Usually you hear people say, well, this simply means loved less. It doesn't really mean hate. Okay, well, is there any basis for that understanding to say that that's what it means? So, first of all, we're just looking at what the text really means, and we're trying to poke around to see what that means. All right, let's take a look here. Genesis 29:30. There's an example here, actually, from the life of Jacob. Jacob went into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah. They would say that's an example. They would say there's some other examples. Let me show you another one to fill in our understanding for what this means, this idea of love less. Whoever loves father or mother, these are words of Jesus, more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Huh. Okay. See what that's saying? That is the concept of love less, right? Got it right here. Let me go to one more example here. This is an important part of the discussion, trust me, because you're going to hear this when this topic comes up. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children, brothers, sisters, yes, he even hate his own life. I added the word hate so you can see what it's talking about. He cannot be my disciple. Huh? Ha, 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 ha. Well, it is true there is a Semitic expression, phrase like this. We just looked at 3 of them. That basically is designed to show contrast. And so it is basically equivalent to say love less. But here's the thing. Is that all this is saying? As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Honestly, I don't think that explanation is sufficient enough to really explain what's being said. Now, I do think that's actually part of the explanation. But the thing is, it's deeper than that because this has to do with divine favor. This has to do with election. And yes, it even has to do with rejection. Now, this gets dangerous. This gets really dangerous because here, some people say, does this teach double predestination? Not only does the Lord choose who will be his, but he actually chooses who he will damn. Other people say, no, it's not an equal ultimacy. The Lord passes over some and chooses others, but they would say it's not double predestination. Joe Roman with the super chat says, will you be doing any Thanksgiving or Christmas themed videos or teachings? Honestly, I had not thought of that, Joe. I wasn't planning on it. But, since you're asking and sending these super chats, is that something you guys would want me to do? I might be able to, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Now, Basic, I hear what you're saying. He's saying there's a reason for God's position towards Esau. I don't want to say feelings, because that's an incorrect way to look at it. I hear what you're saying, but in Romans 9, in regards to God's sovereign choice, it's a lot stronger than that. Okay, let me show you what I mean. This is a key verse, Romans 9:11. Though they were not yet born and had done nothing either good or bad, in order that God's purpose of election might continue, not because of works, but because of him who calls. Notice, there's a real emphasis on the fact that it wasn't anything to do with what they did. This is strictly God's choice here. She was told the older will serve the younger. In the context, as it is written, Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated. So I hear what you're saying, and that idea that you brought up, Basic, is actually brought up again in Hebrews. I believe it's Hebrews 12. Let me look at it real quick. Where'd it go? I had it up. Where'd it go? Now it's one of those things where now I'm frustrated because I had it. Yep, I was right. Okay. That idea that you brought up, see to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it may become defiled, that no one is sexually immoral or unholy like Esau, who sold his birthright for a single meal. For you know that afterward, when he desired to inherit the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no chance to repent, though he sought it with tears. And see, they like this verse, the Hebrew Israelites, because they say, look, no matter how sad or sorry the white man is, he has no chance. He's not even a candidate for salvation. Here's your proof right here. See what I'm saying? But this isn't talking about some kind of thing of a nation or all white people or anything like that. This is specifically talking about Esau, okay? This is specifically talking about him. And it's saying he's a bad example. He's a sort of what you call morality tale. You know what I mean? I think that's what they call it. That's what it's saying. It's like, don't be like Esau. Look, check him out. Look what he did in his life. But notice, this is the key concept with hated. Rejected. I'm not saying it's the same word, but that's the big word right there, rejected. So honestly, I do think, because it's a difficult doctrine and text to deal with, and some of you guys aren't going to go with me here, that's fine. Just consider it. I do think we tend to minimize this text, make it softer than it is, because it doesn't really go with sort of our American way of thinking about what's fair and things like that. Doesn't mean we're right. This is how we think about it. So we get a little sentimental maybe on it, and I don't think you realize that this is a legitimately a difficult text, not because of the nonsense of the Hebrew Israelites. Clearly, it's not saying anything about ethnicity or anything like that, but it's challenging because it brings us face to face with God's divine selection, where he chooses some, Jacob I loved, and rejects others, Esau I have hated. And I think, yes, the background of the Semitic expression of love less is helpful, but I don't think it fully gets into the concept, which really has to do with God accepting one and rejecting one. And it was not based upon anything that we did. We just saw that in Romans 9:11. It's not. It's based upon his choice and his choice alone. And that's just what it is. He's going to choose. It's like this: divine favor or nah. In the case of Jacob, divine favor, even though it's clear he wasn't worthy either. Look at him. Or nah, in the case of Esau. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's why it's a fearful thing to fall in the hands of the living God. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to thank him for his grace. So, I'm tackling this verse because they're going to bring it up. So you may not agree with my discussion about this, but this is something that I encourage you to wrestle with and to be able to talk about and explain, okay? I encourage you to do that, okay? Because this is something they're going to bring up to you. Now, I see someone bringing up Calvinism in the live chat, so I might as well quote John Calvin's commentary on this verse. He says this, and he's paraphrasing the words of Yahweh. Quote, this is John Calvin on Romans 9:13. I chose Jacob and rejected Esau. Induced to this course by my mercy alone and not by any worthiness in his works, I had rejected the Edomites. That's Calvin. All right? That's what he says. And I agree what it's saying, Chose Jacob, rejected Esau, induced to this course by my mercy alone, saying it's not anything in them inherently. This is my divine choice, my sovereign selection, my choice, my free will, because God really does have free will. Not by any worthiness in his works. That's simply just paraphrasing Romans 9:11. Now, again, I know everyone's not going to go with me there. I understand. So we got to look at this to see what's going on. Got to look at this, see what's going on, all right? Respect due to everyone who doesn't agree. But let me circle this all back. Let me circle this all back for you. Remember we covered Romans 9 the other day? And what's going on here is Paul, I got to walk you through this because I got to explain something real quick. This is important. Stick with me. Stick with me, please, guys. We actually only have one more verse after this. Paul saying, I would trade places with my physical brothers who are Israelites and sisters. If they could experience Christ, I'd be willing to be cut off because of their history that they've been given and the beautiful privileges and blessings. Why are they not accepting now, right? Because this is all true about them. But then the answer is the word of God has not failed. And what Paul does here is explains just because you're physical Israel doesn't mean you're actual spiritual Israel. And it doesn't matter about being offspring of Abraham. It matters about faith and belief. And the children of the promises who are counted as offspring aren't just Israelites by default. And he's going to say later how it's Jew and Gentile. Now look, he talks about this and he gives an example of God's divine choice with the case of Jacob and Esau. And then says God can do this because he's sovereign and in control. And the potter is in charge of the clay, and the clay can't talk back. And so this is what it is. And so look at this. In order to make known the riches of his glory for vessels of mercy, which he has prepared beforehand before glory. Even us whom he has called, not from the Jews only. So now what Paul's saying, that now God is rising up a people that he's called, And yes, there's Jews, like I've been talking about, but we know in mass the ethnic Israelites are not believing in Jesus as Messiah. That's why he says, but also from the Gentiles. Then he uses Hosea to give that as an example. These are people who were not called by his name, who are now called by his name. Verse 30, I'm skipping through Romans 9. We already did this, so you can go back and see more on this from yesterday. What shall we say then? The Gentiles who did not pursue righteousness have attained it, that is, a righteousness that is by faith, but Israel who pursued a law that would lead to righteousness did not succeed in reaching that law? The answer is yes, all right? Now you can go through and read all this, but here's the point, and I'm going to go back to our original verse we started out with here, Romans 9 through 13. God has a divine choice, our brother Paul is reminding us, and he's always exercised it. And Paul gives us an example of Jacob and Esau. He also gives us an example of Pharaoh, the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. And what Paul is saying is that right now, in this time, some people use the word dispensation, but in this era, there is not going to be a massive amount of Jews believing Jesus is Messiah. Rather, it's going to be mainly Gentiles. But there will come a time when there's going to be, and this is the way I interpret the end of Romans 11, a large revival movement, or so you could use different terms if you're not comfortable with that language, but you understand what I'm saying, I hope, where many Jews will actually come to Christ, and then we're good. And then, you know what I'm saying, then Jesus is coming back. Now, point by saying all that is this. The example here of Jacob and Esau, God is saying he can sovereignly choose over one and grant mercy to the other how he wants. Paul is saying that's exactly what's happening to Israel right now. Here's what's wild, and I'm going to quote now from Thomas Schreiner, probably my favorite current New Testament scholar and commentator. This is page 502 of his commentary on Romans. Listen to this. This is totally true. Deal with it. What is astonishing about Paul's argument here is that most of ethnic Israel are identified with Esau. Do you see this? Right now, God is passing over the majority of Israelites, in a manner of speaking, and choosing to save Gentiles. And Paul directly says that. You just got to deal with it. He says, what if this is God's way to wake up our people, basically? What if this is God's way to arouse our jealousy? You know, we get jealous and we're like, yo, let me get some of that stuff while the Gentiles just enjoying it. This is a true quote. I'm going to read it. He's got a parenthetical statement in here, so I'm going to read that with it now. What is astonishing about Paul's argument here is that most of ethnic Israel, those who have not believed the gospel, are identified with Esau and Ishmael. Yes, and not Jacob. That is powerful. That is shocking. You have to understand how shocking this is. Romans 9 through 11 is not only hard for modern American sensibilities, which tend to be a lot of times emotional and sentimental and based upon American ideals, not necessarily biblical ideals in a lot of ways. I'm not saying there's no overlap ever. It was also offensive to first century Jews in a lot of ways because they're reading this and seeing, wait, you're telling me God is sovereignly right now acting this way in history where he's passing over the majority of Israel and instead pulling a people from himself out of the mass of the Gentiles of the world? And you're telling me that is what he's doing now, and that's similar or just like what he did with Jacob and Esau or what he did with Pharaoh? Is that what you're telling me? Paul's saying, yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And that's the biblical message. That is true. And I'm skimming through here. I'm not reading all this because that's where he's making the argument. Romans 9 through 11, the center core of the book of Romans. Very challenging passage for people to deal with. Now, I'm putting in the context of the Hebrew Israelite misinterpretation. But this is, look what it's saying. I already paraphrased this, but read verse 13 and verse 14. It's just a fact. It just is what it is. It's amazing. Let me just read this last part. Lest ye be wise in your own sight. I do not want you to be unaware of this mystery, brothers. Partial hardening has come upon Israel, till the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. He's talking here to his Gentile brothers, because who else would get wise in their own sight? Like, hey, well, we're accepting Messiah. The Jews aren't. He's saying, no. Understand this is a mystery. Something was undisclosed in fullness till now. Because of brothers. He's saying a partial hardening has come on. He doesn't say upon you or your people. He says upon Israel. Until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. All right? In verse 26 is where I got that end times revival of actual ethnic Jews from. So this is, but it has nothing to do. Romans 9:13 has nothing to do with, God saying, I love black folks and I hate white folks. That's not what he's saying. And I think that's obvious. No one thinks it's what it's saying. It's really insane to think that's what it says. I mean, where is that in the text? It's nowhere in the text. That's why you have to go to those bad precepts that they use to try to. Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and tackle this. We only have one more left, but we got a guy spitting One West dogma. FedEx Man 7. Okay, FedEx Man 7. He claims to know what these guys look like, and I think he missed something from earlier. So we're gonna have to reiterate this to him right now. And I believe it's from the account in Genesis 27. All right. FedEx, he seems to claim to know what these guys look like. There, I made it a little bit bigger. And he says Jacob and Esau looked nothing alike. One was dark brown. The other one was red with lots of hair on his body. Jacob was smooth skinned, not hairy. A few questions. FedEx Man 7, where's Jacob's description of his physical traits as far as his skin goes? Where's that in the Bible? FedEx Man 7, where's that in the Bible? How do you know that? You don't know that. It's not in there. You're basing that upon your other mistaken assumptions about the way he looked. Now, he could have looked like what you just said. He could have looked like that. He could have been, he could be, dark brown, just like you said. But the Bible never says dark brown. It doesn't even say brown. Most likely he was brown. A shade of brown. Who knows? Like the hip-hop group, he could have been a lighter shade of brown. Bible doesn't say, though. So where are you getting that from? From your other false precepts. Okay, I understand that. You say they look nothing alike? How do you know? It seems their voice was different, and Esau was more hairy, but how do you know? Josephus says they were identical except for the hair factor. Jacob was smooth-skinned, not hairy. Okay, we know that. That's true. That's the only truthful thing you said that you could document. Now, here's where I'm going to get you. Question. FedEx. Hey, Miss Titus 2, how you doing? FedEx Man 7. FedEx Man 7. I know you won't answer this question, but I would love it if you would. Why, when Jacob was impersonating Esau, did he put the goat skin hair on the back of his neck and on his hands only? Because remember, he said if he touches me, he might realize I'm not Esau. So he was concerned because Esau apparently had hair in those two places. Number one, notice it was goat skin hair. Ask yourselves about the nature and texture of that. Just saying. Not sure if it matches up with your thesis. But here's the problem you've got that you're never going to be able to get around. Since you want to play this game, we're going to look for those clues too. And guess what? He did not cover his hair with any kind of different hair. Now, he's worried about him touching the back of his neck and his hands. He would clearly also touch his head then. Back of the neck. Why are they not concerned about Isaac feeling Jacob's hair, recognizing it's of a different texture? Because you believe one guy's black, one guy's white. That's what you're telling us right now here in the live chat. Why aren't they worried about that? With all due respect, you're not going to be able to answer. You're not going to be able to do it. It's just not going to happen. So I'm going to delete this comment off here, and you're just not going to be able to do that. I hope people understand how much of a smash that is about the hair that they put on the hands and the back of the neck, but not on the hair. It's just done. It's just done. You can't do anything with that text. You know? And by the way, if you think Jacob was red, do you also think King David was red? Because the same exact Hebrew word is how they're described. What's up, Joe Roman, for the super chat? This is so funny. The way it describes the emoji, because on my program, I can't actually see it. This is super funny. Here's what I'm going to read this to you. It says, pair character sliding on the floor on his knees saying goal. So I guess that's what it looks like. Oh, he's trying to answer. His mother said the goat skin to cover Jacob's arms and neck because he didn't want to be found out. That was not Esau. Sir, I know that. We already said that. What I'm asking you is, why didn't they need to cover his hair with some kind of woolly texture that would have matched? You're still not answering the question. I'm putting your comments on the screen. FedEx Man 7. It doesn't seem you understand the nature of the question. What about the hair? If you think one guy's black and one guy's white, and I've seen the depictions a lot of times you guys do, right? Yo, what about the hair? Why aren't they worried that their father is going to discover that the hair texture is different? Why don't they cover up the hair? And also, if he's red, what about King David? All right, last one for today. Returning to Jeopardy game. Let's see what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be in the book of Revelation. You can go there if you'd like. Revelation chapter 13. I'll take, in the category of esoteric interpretation for $400, please, Revelation 13:10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Revelation 13:10. All right. What's up with that? Well, here's the One West interpretation. Since the so-called white man and some of the other nations took our people into captivity, they're going to go into captivity, as in be our servants. And since they killed us, we're going to kill them. Okay, you guys understand? Where'd my water go? That's the way they interpret this, okay? Yes, sir. Again, FedEx Man 7 says, obviously the father would touch his arms and neck. Rebecca must have known this. We understand that. But FedEx Man 7, wouldn't the father also touch the head? If he's touching the back of the neck right here, how's he not touching the head? Hey, Sean Gregory, thank you for the super chat. Shout out to you, brother, for real. I understand what you're saying, but you're not really understanding what I'm saying. Why isn't the mother worried about Jacob touching why isn't worried about Isaac touching Jacob's head and finding a different hair texture? So what they say there is that this is a verse that's basically like, you get what you gave, right? You're going to get yours back. So white people cannot get away with what they did, and this verse proves it. Well, let's ask some questions about that. One, if this is saying, well, hold up. FedEx Man 7, I'm not answering your question off topic because you never answered my question. You never answered a question about the hair on the head. I'm not sure if you understand. You never answered it. Until you answered, nothing's happening. Please answer the question. I knew no one could answer this. I knew it was going to be like this. With all due respect, it's unanswerable from your position. That's why. Not because of anything against you. You just can't. There's no good answer from your misunderstanding of the text. You know what I mean? All right. Let's just look at this in the way they would take it. Okay? First of all, wouldn't you say that the white man put Israelites in captivity and killed them, right? So you would have to take them in captivity and kill them too? But you can't do both. If you're dead, you can't work as a slave. Are you saying that, I'm asking the Hebrew Israelites, have you ever really thought about this before? Are you saying you kill them first, and then when they come back in the reincarnation, then that's when they're in captivity? Or that some Edomites are going to get the sword and some are going to get captivity? But isn't it the case that they all did this according to your understanding? You see what I'm saying? But that's not even really the big issue. The big issue is this is the King James Version translation, and people get upset when I say this. I'm not anti-KJV, but the fact of the matter is there are mistakes in it. No Bible translation is perfect, and the King James Version is no exception. The translators have been the first people to tell you this. The KJV translators themselves, okay? They never claimed that they made a perfect translation. Now, let's look here at this verse, okay? All right. All right. Well, notice he's just telling me I'm going to be in slavery and that, we created, see, you can't answer the question. All right. This is the last one, everyone. This is the last one, okay? This is the last one. And I'm going to go back to something that I never mentioned that I wish I would have in regards to Esau. Remind me not to forget it, okay? All right, so let's look at this. Let's look at this right here. Wait, where am I supposed to be? Oh, yeah, Revelation 13. Let's look at the context here of Revelation 13. Beast comes out, and you got the beast given authority. People are worshiping the beast and the dragon. Seems unbeatable, gets a wound. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead, I'm sorry. Utters blasphemy for 42 months. All right. Against God and all that. Tries to do what the Lord does. Authority was given over every tribe and people and language and nation. By the way, this little phrase is in Revelation. It destroys the Hebrew Israelite doctrine yet again. Because in Revelation 5 and Revelation 7, it says the same thing. It says every tribe, people, nation, tongue, language, whatever, right? It's the same phraseology to describe people from everywhere. Yet, Hebrew Israelites say every nation, tribe, tongue actually just means all kinds of Israelites. But here, the same exact phraseology in the same exact book, you guys will make, these are actually all people worshiping the beast, maybe including some of our wicked own people. But in the other part, Revelation 5, Revelation 7, that's just our people who are in different places. Even though it's the same exact phraseology, it's clearly describing the same kind of thing, which is people from all over the earth. That's who worships the Lamb in Revelation 5 and 7. Because, and all who dwell on earth will worship it. Everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world, the book of life. Excuse me. That goes to Ephesians 1. And my point is now we're getting into the verse we just looked at. Notice the difference in the ESV translation, which is far more accurate based upon better manuscripts. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with a sword must he be slain. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. So here's what's going on. Here's what's going on, everybody, right? Check this out. The church is going to be persecuted during this time of persecution when you got these bad guys in control. So Jesus says, listen up. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. Pay attention. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If my destiny for you as someone who's going to be persecuted is to go into captivity, that's what's going to happen to you. If anyone is to be slain with the sword he must be slain. If your destiny is to die as a martyr, then that's what's going to happen to you. This makes sense because that makes sense that it's a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. The idea that it's recompense doesn't flow naturally from the grammar, the best manuscripts, or the sense of the text. Now, here's where I am going to actually read some commentaries. I haven't read any commentaries tonight, but sometimes I like to read some, and I think they give a good picture of this that I think is important. So let me bring it on my screen, and let's take a look at some of the commentaries. Here's Beasley Murray's commentary. I'm going to read real briefly from Revelation 13, 9, 10. And you guys are going to like this here. All right. Well, hold on. I'm not going to read Beasley Murray's because the reason is I realize I've got too many commentaries that I'm basically trying to go to. This is because I got like 3 or 4 out, and I'm not going to be able to actually get to them all. All right, here's a good one, though. Okay, this is Mounce's commentary. The contemporary equivalent of verse 9 would be, now hear this. It occurs in each of the 7 letters and recalls the familiar expression of Jesus, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. It alerts the reader to the importance of that which follows. The proverbial style of verse 10 has resulted in several scribal attempts to clarify meaning by altering the text. Now, that's important. Whenever you have a difficult original, a lot of times, if you have a difficult original, that results in a more scribal variation because they a lot of times scribes think, well, there must have been some kind of mistake here with the grammar, and so they sometimes try to correct it, which results in more variance. Here's the point. In Revelation 13:9-10, there's a multitude of variants because it's clear this is a place where there's been attempts at scribal correction, which then leads us to the conclusion. This is where you go. This is how part of how textual criticism works, that the original must be a difficult reading. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying, but that's just a fact, and it does make sense if you think about it. Some manuscripts refer both couplets to the persecutors of the church by adding a verb, which makes the first line read, if any man leads into captivity he goes. All right? So he gives examples of those variants, which manuscripts say that. Thus, the verse would stress that the enemies of God's people would be requited for the persecution of believers in the same form they employed, captivity for captivity, sword for sword. Just how this can be called the patience and the faith of the saints is not clear. That's a good question. How can that be called the patience and the faith of the saints? But he's saying because of the variation of the text, that's one understanding. But notice, even if that's the case, it still doesn't have anything to do with this being related to the transatlantic slave trade or some kind of persecution of an ethnic group. This has to do with God's people during the time the beast is allowed to run wild. Alexandrinus, a 5th century manuscript, interprets both couplets in reference to the saints by changing the second verb to a passive infinitive in reading, if any man is to be killed with the sword, he is to be killed with the sword. This reading stresses the inevitability of persecution and death to the faithful. Now, that's not as sexy or as exciting or romantic as what the Hebrew Israelites want, but makes a lot more sense in the context of Revelation and agrees with the better manuscripts. Charles argues that this appeal to loyal endurance suits the context and tone of the entire apocalypse, and further is supported by Jeremiah 15:2 and 43:11. Well, that's interesting. I wonder what those... I wonder, could it be that Revelation, which over half of it is Old Testament quotes and allusions, could it be that there's a precedent for this in God's Word before the book of Revelation, already prior? Well, it looks like there is. Jeremiah 15. Then the Lord said to me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my heart would not turn toward this people. So God is saying right now, Israel's going to get judged. Send them out of my sight and let them go. And when they ask you, where shall we go? You shall say to them, thus says the Lord. So they're going to be like, what do we do? What do we do? And this is the answer from God, because this is a time of judgment in this context. Oh, wait, let me actually show you guys on the screen. I forgot that I'm not actually showing you. Let me show you, okay? Now I'm showing you, okay? Those who are for pestilence to pestilence, and those who are for sword to the sword, those who are for famine to famine, and those who are for captivity to captivity. I will appoint over them 4 kinds of destroyers, declares the Lord. The sword to kill, the dogs to tear, and the birds of the air, the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy. Notice the construction, and this has been noticed by a number of people. The construction is very similar. You really think that's accidental? This is clearly by design. Back here in Jeremiah, we have Yahweh saying to his people, you're going to be judged, and some of you are destined for this kind of judgment, and others are destined for this kind of judgment. Now, this is through fault of their own. The persecution of the church, in contradistinction, comes from their being faithful. However, the construction is still the same idea grammatically and theologically, which is this: if you're destined for this kind of martyrdom or suffering and persecution, that's what you'll face. And if you're destined for this other kind, that's what you'll face. Namely here, sword and captivity. Different kinds for different people, different strokes for different folks, right? This is the better understanding of Revelation 13, 9 through 10. Do you see this? So this is important here because the King James Version is based upon a textual variant that's unlikely because it seems to be a later attempt at a scribal correction. And so when you look at Sinaiticus, sometimes called Codex A, it has what would more look like the initial text. And this idea comes from Jeremiah 15. And so all it's saying is like, hey, it's God's will that some of you suffer this way and others suffer this way. So have steadfast endurance and strong faith in the triune God during this time. Very, very important. Let me see. Did I bring one more commentary? I did not. Well, I brought one. Let me see. This is Barclay's commentary. This is the last commentary I'm going to read on this. And then we be done. But I think this is important here. Yeah. Page 126. All right, here we go. Whatever God has ordained for a man, that a man must accept. If in the dreadful time of persecution the Christian faith means captivity and imprisonment, then the Christian must unmurmuringly and unhesitantly accept it. So then the first statement is that a Christian must accept all that being a Christian involves. He has already been warned that being a Christian involves taking up a cross, that it involves hatred even by our nearest and dearest, that it may well involve trial, scourging, imprisonment, death. Whatever is involved in following Christ, the Christian must accept. And he goes on to say that this is not something we defend by force. And our only weapons are hupomone, which is the Greek word for steadfastness. It means we bear all things in a Christ-like way, but even more than that, it's not passive. We courageously accept the worst that life can do and turn it into glory. Amen and amen. Now, last thing I forgot to bring up is the idea of red. If you do a deeper word study in relationship to that passage, as far as what we see there in relation to Esau and David, what it is it's the reddish color of brown. So imagine as red as brown can be. That's why it makes sense to talk about a red heifer. It's not a red heifer like the kind you would pull out of a Crayola box. The Hebraic semantic domain for this word understandably seems to be that it's more elastic. So it could be that kind of red, like blood red. But when it comes especially to people's skin tone, the emphasis is on this ruddy brown red, like the way the cow could be, that's as red as brown can be. Still brown, though. Or like sometimes it seems like the way the soil might be described, which is that brown reddish clay. Not something a white person would have. It's actually still brown. So actually the real evidence here is most likely this is describing folks who are brown, but it's a certain tint or tone of brown. And that's based upon my word study when I looked more into the underlying Hebrew word for ruddy. All right, so with that now, it's time to do the freestyle. Second one of the night. Now check this out. Dropping a video tomorrow most likely on Sakari. It's going to be a brief 4-minute video. And it's going to show where they curse out old ladies in Spanish, and it's really jacked up. Then on, I think, Saturday, most likely going to drop a video on IUIC when I was out there with IUIC Houston. And that video is about 15, 19 minutes long, something like that, 20 minutes long. And that one's going to show how IUIC basically like tries to be tough, but they're really basically intellectual cowards. And I think that video is very helpful. So those coming up, so look for that. Let's see, Thursday and Saturday. Friday I might go briefly live because I do have some things I need to get with you guys about, as well as one more round of Jeopardy. Excuse me, I got to do this to keep my throat fresh where I can spit, all right? All right. It's time to do the freestyle and close out the show. I got a new beat. Some of you guys won't like it. Some of you will. Let's check it out. Close out with the freestyle, ladies and gentlemen. Beat by my main man Tommy Boy brought this track in. All right, let's hear this. Yeah. Bring in that beat. Chilling in my seat. No defeat. Grow like some peat. Moss not dry, not sci-fi fly. Chewing out the bones, spitting on the grass. I rap real fast. Don't make that cash unless it's super chat. Boom to the bat, hear the guitar in the back. Hey yo, dog, come sit in my lap. I'm talking to Justice, aka Scruffles. Peep it out now. I will eat some ruffles. When I'm done, that's some chips. In the meantime, man, don't set trips. I rip, spit, straight from the lip, then I flip. Call me Mr. Acrobatic. I'm like a Q-tip going straight down your ear. Vocab Malone got water, not beer. Peep it out now, I steer this car. Vocab Malone sweet like a candy bar. I got that flavor, plus a kinda nutty. Hey yo, to the homies, what's up, I'll be your buddy. Do you want me to grab the mic and make it kinda ugly like a white man named Esau? Just kidding, all of y'all. Peep it out now, I know that you saw the real interpretation, not esoteric. Vocab Malone, you know I'm a cleric. Well, not really, now that's kinda silly. Shout out to Joe Roman B, dropping mad billies. Today, tonight, Thursday, Wednesday, can't remember really what I'm going to say. My man Tommy Bree chillin' on the south side. Esau coming down cause he got a lot of pride. Alright, I arrived, yes, peep it out. In the background, make you wanna scream and shout. Got the drum, so red rum, that means murder like 3, 2, 1. Vocab Malone, some say Malone. Know how we do, I'm like a dum-dum, not like the sucker, like a barbell. Hey yo, jam like Smuckers, jelly, talking on a celly. Vocab Malone beat, rockin' pelly. In the 90s, get deep behind me. Peep it out now, I smack Satan's hiney. Ha! Shining bright like a diamond. Peep it out, not white, but clear. Yes, maybe transparent. Yeah, gave a shout out to my parent when my mom called on the telephone, y'all. Hey yo, this is Vocab Malone. Speak, stall, then bring it back attack. The rap with a rap, got a magic backpack. Chillin' in the back, hey yo, cognac. Not what I drink, but I spit and I spat. Over boom bap with the hi-hat kicking. Vocab Malone beat eating church's chicken. Maybe KFC, maybe Chick-fil-A, but don't go that one place, they'll kill you. Hey! Alright, y'all, God bless. Peace out, shalom. Catch you later. It's been real.